for us it's important not to produce single cru. Our winery have a property of three cru, where it's possible for us to produce three different labels from each cru. But we prefer to make a blend because the blend is the tradition of the area, arrived from the past, where the family pick up the grape from different cru and produce just only one barrel of Barolo because the market not ask a lot of Barolo wine. It was very difficult to sell Barolo. And at the end, the family produced one or maybe two barrels of Barolo, and the grapes was from of the best Sori of the property of the family, pick up and blend together.
Fascinating people with stories to share, fabulous wines and the best local foods to accompany them, and beautiful places to discover and visit. All of this and more on Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast. Join me for a new episode every Tuesday. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to Piedmont, into the heart of the Barolo wine hills of Le Langhe, to the tiny frazione of Perno near Monforte d'Alba, to meet my guest and good friend Mario Fontana of Cascina Fontana. Buongiorno Mario, come stai? How are you today?
I'm very well, Mark. Today is a very winter day here in Perno. There's a fog and a very freezing temperature, and so it's okay.
Okay, that typical nebbia, that fog of Le Langhe, that is what we sort of imagine it's like in winter.
Yes, it's a really winter day
Okay.
and very freezing, yes.
Okay. Mario, you recently received an immense award and accolade when Gambero Rosso, the prestigious publisher of the annual Vini d'Italia wine guide, named you Viticulture dell'anno 2025, Winemaker of the Year 2025. Fabulous and well-earned achievement. So I just want to send from all of us here at Italian Wine Podcast our huge congratulations.
Thank you, Mark. It's a big honor for me to receive this award. It's very special because it's a riconoscimento,
Okay, it's an acknowledgement.
yes, for given the person, not only at the wine maker, but at the farmer, the man that work in the vineyards and growing up the grapes that he used for to produce wine.
Okay, that's a very important point. That viticulture dell'anno, you are the person, the farmer, the wine grower. You tend the vines as well as make the wine. So it really recognizes the work that you've done as a small wine grower. And this award could have been awarded to many thousands of wine growers all around Italy. So it is a great achievement and a great honor. And we're all very proud of what you've achieved. Mario, we first met when, as a young man, you used to drive over to England with a van full of your family's wine to sell. You started your own wine business, Cascina Fontana, in 1994, which is just over 30 years ago. A long time ago, Mario, but not that long. You've achieved a great deal over the past 3 decades and now been named Winemaker of the Year. Can you share with us the story of Cascina Fontana?
Yes, it's a really long family story of Fontana family and also for Cascina Fontana. Cascina Fontana was born at the start of 1800 when my family moving from the village to outside the village to live in the country, in this part of the terroir of Castiglione Falletto. And that time was born Fontana family azienda agricola wine farm because normally in that time the name of the farm take the name of the family. So it was the start of 1800. So now are seven generations that we produce wine in Castiglione Falletto.
Okay, so that's a long story of many generations, and you began your own Cascina Fontana in 1994. Now, Mario, I know you've always considered yourself a traditional wine producer, doing things as your family have always done, both in the vineyard and in the wine cantina. What does being a traditional wine producer mean to you?
To be a traditional wine maker means to maintain an idea and a method in winemaking and work in the vineyard. The idea of the wine is to produce a very original and unique wine, blending the different vineyards of the family, of the property of the family, to produce a very original and unique wine. So it's a very old method to blend vineyards, not produce a single cru.
Okay, so that's really interesting. That classic method where wine growers in Le Langhe, in Barolo, often had patches of vineyards in different areas which have different characteristics. And by blending them together, you create your own house style, the Cascina Fontana style of Barolo. Now, Mario, in the vineyard, you take low intervention approach, keeping fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides to a minimum or not using them. What are some of the steps you take in the vineyard to keep your vines as healthy as you can?
Sure, there is a very big attention for the respect the terroir and the vineyards, sure. Cascina Fontana is un'azienda sostenibile, is a sustainability farm, winery, and we follow the SQNPI, is Sistema di Qualità Nazionale di Produzione Integrata, so we are an integrate way work in the vineyards, meaning that we reduce at the minimum they use the chemical and we not use examples chemical reserves, and also we work for to maintain intact the characteristic of the soil and not transform nothing. So we work for to have a protection of our vineyards and our soil.
Okay, I know that you take a number of steps, for example, using fertilizer, natural cow manure from the mountains.
Yes, we use natural cow from mountain. Is very special because before putting the vineyards, we age 2 years. We mature 2 years before to put in the soil.
Okay, so that's the cow manure from the unpolluted, beautiful alpine meadows of the mountains, which you then age for 2 years to really get all the nutrients and richness before putting it on the vineyards.
Yes, and also we use sexual confusion, so it's a pheromone for the insect to reduce the problem from the insect.
Okay, that's very interesting too. I'll just explain that to our listeners. The use of pheromones released in the vineyard, which cause sexual confusion with the vineyard insect pests, and so that they can't reproduce. It's a way of controlling pests without necessarily having to spray a chemical to kill them.
Yes, it's a very important point. And also, we use to cut the grass down the vines by hand or by a mechanic machine special. But every year we do that. We're moving also, zappiamo le vigne.
Okay, so again, you're not wanting to use a herbicide or chemical to get the grass out between the vines. You're manually cutting the grass or using mechanical machines to cut the grass rather than to kill the grass.
And also for to moving the soil down the vine.
Okay, so that movement of the soil is very important. Of course, we're talking about, certainly in Castiglione Falletto, slopes that are very, very steep.
Yes.
Sono molto ripidi I vigneti, sì?
See, we have a very steep vineyards and some parts also very dangerous with the tractor, but
Yeah, yeah.
we know.
That's right. Yeah. Mario, I know you are in the vineyard yourself throughout the growing season. You work so closely with the vines. Has climate change had an effect on how you work in the vineyard, and how are you dealing with the challenges of the changing climate? I know there have been some difficult years lately.
See, we changed the work that we do in the last 20 years in the vineyards because the time changed also our work, our way in work in the vineyard because the temperature every year is more growing up and also there is less rain, so it's more dry. And in this condition, the risk for us is to have too much sugar in the grapes, so to have at the end too much alcohol in the wine. Second way is to have too much early maturation of the grapes. We prefer because we're looking for to have a more later maturation in this moment. Until 30 years ago or 20 years ago, we're looking for to have a more early maturation because the maturation was in the middle of October, end of October. With the climate change now in the last vintage, not 24 because was a lot of rain, was strange. But normally in the last vintages are very, very early maturation. And to check this problem, for not have too early maturation, in the last years we leave more volume grapes in the vineyards. So we don't reduce a lot the production in the vineyards, but we leave more points, more volume for to disperse better the concentration in the grape. And also for us it's very important to maintain the distance from every vine. Classical style in the winemaking mean also to decide when you plant vineyards how many vines to plant by hectare. In the nebbiolo we have less of 4,000 vines by hectares. What mean that we leave more space every vines and also mean to have more leaves, more green vegetation for every vines, for to have at the end more photosynthesis chlorophylliana, for give energy to the vines to resist better and the more difficult weather condition that sometimes are very extreme condition.
Well, that's really interesting, Mario, that all of these steps that you're taking, as you say, in the past years, the aim was to get the sugar levels high enough in order to make Barolo wines. But now the problem is the opposite, so that the grapes don't ripen too quickly, sugar wise, before they're phenolically ripe, but also that taking steps by spacing the vines and also keeping this canopy of foliage to assist in the photosynthesis. Foliage as well, Mario. I remember 30 years ago that sometimes you would take leaves away to allow the grapes to be better exposed to the sunshine. But now I guess it's the opposite. That canopy of leaves protects the grapes from becoming
Yes, is it?
burnt from this intense heat. Mario, let's move into the cantina. In the winemaking process, you also take a classical approach, trying to interfere as little as possible. Tell us some of the steps you take in winemaking.
And the first, in the cellar, we work to preserve the typicity of our wine, not for change. Our approaching in winemaking is not so technical, but is very artisanal. We're looking for in the wine to exalt the part of the typicity, so mean that respect the originality of our soil or our vines. And for to make this example, we only distemps the grapes and we pump the berries with the skin intact for to have a more soft extraction.
Okay, without crushing the grapes, just with the whole berries.
The berries are broke, but non sono schiacciati, dei rulli,
Okay, so not pressed.
not pressed. And at the end, this way, during the fermentation, the extraction is more soft because we are not looking for to have a materic wine or big concentration wine in the color and in the material. We're looking for to produce wine with the classical style, mean finesse and elegance.
And you're keeping the indigenous yeasts that is present on the grapes rather than introducing cultured yeast.
Is important point. For us, it's important not use selected yeast, but use the yeast that arrive in the cell with the grapes, that they start the fermentation, and the wine is born. When the fermentation starts, it's important that is made from natural yeast for to maintain the originality and the typicity in the wine.
Okay, that's a very important point. I want our listeners to understand that the typicity of the sense of place in a wine comes not just from where the grapes are grown, but from the yeast that is existent in the vineyards. And that yeast that's naturally on the bloom of the grapes is used for the fermentation rather than introducing a cultured yeast that could have come from a laboratory.
Sì, sono lieviti selvaggi, wild yeast that start the fermentation of our wines. In the second time, subentrano. In the second time are indigenous yeast that continue
Okay.
the fermentation. The yeast that
Okay.
are in the cellar.
Of course. So these yeasts that have been in the cellar for 30 years that populate and again give the identity to the wines of Cascina Fontana.
Yes, is it? And sure is important for us. Also, we not check the temperature, the fermentation going in very natural way. We not check we not have a thermic mask.
Okay, temperature control, that you don't need that.
No, we prefer not use it because at the end, when the fermentation starts in natural way, without use selected yeast, also the fermentation starts very slow. Also, the fermentation is a little more longer, but the temperature remaining lower than if you use selected yeast. Because selected yeast are more power and push the temperature during the fermentation more upper point.
Okay, so it's a very artisanal, very natural approach to making your wines.
Yes, and for this fermentation is important to prepare the grapes in the vineyard. Is important point. Is the reason that we're looking for not have too high sugar or very early maturation because we need to preserve the typicity in the wine
Okay, so
and,
again,
and also the balance. So
an important point that the character of the wine, the quality of the wine comes from the quality of the grapes and the work carried out in the vineyard.
yes, for us is our idea, is our style, is what we look in winemaking.
Mario, can we go through the typical grapes of Le Langhe that you cultivate and the wines that you make from each? Can we begin with a wine that I love? I mean, I've enjoyed all your wines for many years, but Dolcetto is always a special wine, not least because it's the first wine that is released every year, and it seems to express something very much of the identity of Le Langhe when I'm with you. Let's start with Dolcetto.
Yes, and the dolcetto is a very popular wine in our area. In the past, the dolcetto also was my family sell a lot of in big size Damigiana,
54 liter, 54 litri,
54 litri.
big demi-johns of wine that used to be the container to go to bars and to go to homes to
Yeah,
be bottled.
the family come in the cellar, or we bring the family in the cellar. Big size is Damigiana of wine, and the family drink every day this wine. And the wine was considered like an common alimento, like a
Like a
common alimento,
food, like a
like a
food,
food,
something
like
to
a
have
food.
every day with meals.
Yes. And also today for me the dolcetto is very important. Every day I have a glass of dolcetto and non manca mai dalla cucina nostra in
Okay,
famiglia.
okay.
Also is the first wine that we start to drink from the new vintage. Is a wine that normally in 11th of November when there is a special day, 11
The San
novembre,
Martino.
San Martino, is a date when finish the annata agricola.
Okay, so this is the end of the farmer's year when the farm workers have finished their year.
And is un giorno di festa.
Okay, so it's a celebration day. The hard work of the farmer's year has come to an end. It's a time to celebrate. È una giornata quando I contadini erano anche pagato. They would
Sì,
be paid on that day. So
sì.
a day to really celebrate and enjoy.
Yes, i contadini in that day receive the money of the furniture that they produce, cioè the product that they produce. Also, there was a moment that sometime they pay also the rent because in the past, too many contadini,
Hmm.
farmer, rent the terreni,
Okay, they rent their vineyard, their land.
they rent the land from rich men of the area or and there was also a moment that they pay, but also they receive money of the product, the grapes, hazelnuts, or peach pesche that they
Okay,
produce. And for us, is until also this year we made party in the cellar in the 11th of November for San Martino, and we drink dolcetto. And me and Luisa made bagna cauda. It's a special dish. It's a sauce made with garlic, anchovies, and oil olive. Cook for too many hours, and is a sauce that is good with used to eat with seasonal vegetables like pepperoni or cardo or verza, potato, and it's very convivial moment. And the wine that we use with this dish is dolcetto, the new dolcetto, take from the tank, direct from the tank.
So this new dolcetto, this is wine that is not yet complete wine. It's been harvested and made. The grapes were harvested just weeks earlier, so it's still working a little, and that wine is drawn directly from the vat, still foaming into jugs and put on the table. The first wine of the year, so a very special and important moment to enjoy with this great moment of San Martino, this feast of bagna cauda, this special sauce of anchovies, garlic, and extra virgin olive oil, nothing else to dip in with the seasonal vegetable. It's a tradition, an annual tradition that is very, very special. And as you say, Mario, that new dolcetto, this is the moment to first taste the wine of the year.
Yes, for me it's a very special wine and very important wine for me. Yes, represent the story
Mario, when would you actually then bottle the dolcetto?
in the spring. Normally in spring, early spring. Yes, for to maintain, for to preserve, sorry, freshness and juicy of this wine.
Okay, okay. And this is Dolcetto d'Alba, the earliest and youngest one, but still a wine that I know has a capacity to evolve in the bottle. I have bottles of Cascina Fontana Dolcetto that are 15 years old that are still drinking very, very well. Mario, let's turn to another important grape that you grow that I know is also part of the identity of Cascina Fontana, which is the Barbera.
Yeah, Barbera d'Alba. We produce Barbera d'Alba, and characteristic of this wine is very crunchy fruit, crunchy juicy fruit, and also high acidity. And this wine don't have a tannin. So it's wine that normally the farmer, when in the past when they go to work in the vineyards in the early morning, they bring with them salami or cheese, and also bring wine. And the wine was Barbera because the acidity of the Barbera helped the digestion. And also the Barbera is very rich. Posso dire in italiano, il Barbera è un vino che dà forza anche.
So it's a powerful wine. It's a rich wine. It's a wine to take to the vineyards first thing in the morning with that second breakfast that the farmer would be having of salami and cheese and a glass of Barbera. Really, I think what you mean that this is a wine that almost it lifts you up and gives you power. È un vino potente in quel senso.
Sì, è un vino che è molto nutriente, is very nutrient.
Okay, it's very nutritious.
Sì, nutritious. The Barbera that we produce is we age for 1 year in the cellar. For 50%, the age is in cement tank, and for the other 50% of the wine is in French oak, 10% new barrique, French oak barrique. After 12 months, we blend the two parts of the wine from cement and French oak barrique and bottling. In this way, we can preserve from the cement, from the part of cement, the freshness and the juicy, and from the wood we can have a little bit softness from and around there, especially for the part of the acidity.
Okay, that's very important. As you know, Mario, I've loved your Barbera for many years and seen it evolve as well. And I think Barbera for me is such a great wine because of this acidity, because of this ability to be such a food wine, as you say, a nutritious wine, a wine that is meant to be enjoyed at the table. It's interesting that it has very little tannin, but it has this marked acidity. And the Cascina Fontana Barbera d'Alba rounds this off and balances this in a very elegant way with that little bit of touch from the barrique, but still maintaining this acidity and this beautiful, rich character and fruit. Mario, let's turn to Nebbiolo. Now, Nebbiolo, of course, is the king of grapes in Le Langhe, but you grow Nebbiolo to produce Langhe Nebbiolo, to produce Barolo, to produce your Castiglione Falletto Barolo, and to produce your Triple A Vino Rosso, which we'll also discuss. But the grape is Nebbiolo. Tell us about this great grape.
Sure, the nebbiolo is a variety grapes that we growing up in mostly percentual. We have 7 hectares of vineyards, and mostly of 4 hectares are dedicated to nebbiolo, nearly 5. The rest is barbera and dolcetto. There is also a little part of Fresa that is a new plant, is another way. So we produce Langhe Nebbiolo. Langhe Nebbiolo is a wine that represents the mostly easy way, basic way of Nebbiolo grapes. What mean? Sure, our Nebbiolo is important wine, but example, we use not the vineyard, not the best cru that we have, because the best cru that we have of Nebbiolo we use for the production of the Barolo. So are 3 other vineyards that we have, and we use for Langhe Nebbiolo in for to produce a wine with more softness and more easy way. What mean? Example, we leave more volume on the grapes. Normally, the vineyard that we use are more freshness condition, so extract better the juice of the Nebbiolo. And the fermentation is very short. There is not long maturation or submerged cup. So we work for to preserve the part of the juicy and the part of elegance of the Nebbiolo. The wine is aged 1 year in the cellar, in a barrel and cement. We bottling after 1 year of age. Is a wine that is possible to drink also with the simple food. It's not necessary for our Nebbiolo to have a soury meal, is correct? Saporito.
Sapori flavor, really rich flavors.
It's not necessary
Okay.
to have cibi saporiti.
Okay. Rich, flavorful foods.
Yes, it's a wine that have a good combination also with more simple food. Example, pasta ragu or fresh cheese or salad. It's a good wine for the people that, in example, in lunchtime, with a short time, just only one dish of pasta ragu and one glass of nebbiolo is perfect. Also, is a wine that is possible to drink also with more savory food, più gustosi.
See.
But the concept is more simple, più facile.
Okay, so it's still a important, serious wine. I love the Langhe Nebbiolo, but it's a different expression from Barolo. The maceration on the skins being shorter means that the tannins are not as complex, and the wine can be enjoyed in simpler ways or indeed with more savory foods. Mario, let's discuss your Barolo, your classic Cascina Fontana Barolo.
Cascina Fontana Barolo is a wine that I continue to produce, follow the same concept that my family use in winemaking from more than 200 years. What mean? Mean that in the first, in the Barolo, for me is not a power wine or black color or materic wine. No, Barolo for us is a wine that must show the elegance, finesse, tannin, but silky part of the tannin, part of the silky minerality, and at the end, every element must to be in equilibrium,
In balance.
in a good balance, well integrated. And also, for us, it's important not to produce single cru. Our winery have a property of 3 cru, where it's possible for us to produce 3 different labels from each cru. But we prefer to make a blend because the blend is the tradition of the area, arrived from the past, where the family pick up the grapes from different cru and produce just only one barrel of Barolo because the market not ask a lot of Barolo wine. It was very difficult to sell Barolo. And at the end, the family produced one or maybe 2 barrels of Barolo, and the grapes was from of the best Sori of the property of the family. pick up and blend together. So the tradition of the Barolo is not a single crew, but blend. And also the philosophy in winemaking of the Barolo in the past was to produce a very noble wine that showed the elegance, the finesse, and wine for to keep very long time. In fact, in the past, 200 years ago, was started the technique of cappello sommerso, submerged cup, and for to make very long maturation, for to reinforce the structure in the wine and the complexity in the wine, for to keep the wine very long time.
Okay, this is really interesting. This classic style of Cascina Fontana Barolo, blending the three cru vineyards that Cascina Fontana has to make the classic style that brings in the best characteristics from each to have a more balanced and elegant style of Barolo. And the tradition, as you mentioned, Mario, of winemaking using the capello sommerso. So this is where the skins on the mass that rise to the top of the fermentation vat are kept wet and moist in order to extract a long, slow extraction that will allow these wines, these great wines, these noble wines, Barolo, of course, being the wines that the nobility, that first king of Italy, Vittorio Emanuele II, was so fond of. These great wines that have the capacity to age for very, very lengthy periods. So, Mario, Barolo is a wine for wine drinkers with patience. It's not a wine to enjoy when it's young. Is that right?
Yes, especially in the past, the concept was to drink Barolo after food, after meal,
Okay, after the meal.
after to the meal. Normally was very old vintage of Barolo, was very old wine, minimum. In the past, the family opened a Barolo with minimum 20, 25, 30 years. And they drink this wine at the end of the meal, just with a little bit piece of biscuit or chocolate, or also nothing. Barolo Old was very important element for the convivial moment to stay at the table, continue to stay at the table with a friend, with the family, and speak about many things. The projects also a bottle of wine the family open when some people arrive in the family to visit, and they open a bottle of Barolo to show his for to show the la felicità,
The happiness of
il
seeing
rispetto,
the respect and happiness. See,
il rispetto, la stima.
okay, the esteem that the guest has. An honor to have that bottle of Barolo, of old Barolo, opened for the guest.
Yes, was when the people arrive, you open a bottle of Barolo was very important respect for the people, especially when the arrive parents from so far they live that you not see too many times. Okay,
Okay, when relatives arrive from distant times. Yeah, I think it's very important for our listeners to understand these traditions of where traditional Barolo comes from because it's so famous a wine now and it's found. Your wines, I know, are found in many countries, Mario. But to go back to the roots, I radici di queste tradizioni, it's very important for people to understand the soul of Barolo, l'anima di Barolo.
sure. And also today change because we usually drink Barolo with the food, but the vintage that we use with the food is more young. Now, also for different reason, possibility economic of the people, or also for the different climate, the Barolo is have a different approaching. More easy approaching when he's young because in the past when with a low temperature a very difficult vintage normally the profile of the Barolo when it was young was very hard. Also the tannin was more hard and also the acidity was more highest than now. Now the Barolo when he's young is more easy approaching.
That's interesting, Mario, because it's an indication that climate change has affected the style of the wine. And in this sense, perhaps a good way because consumers, wine drinkers, wine lovers can enjoy Barolo without having to wait 15, 20 years. Younger Baroli are still very enjoyable and more approachable.
Yes,
Mario, can we quickly turn to just some of the classic foods of Le Langhe, foods I've enjoyed around your table many times, but I want our listeners to gain an impression of the importance of food, of la gastronomia in the culture of enjoying these great wines of Le Langhe. You've mentioned the Bagna Cauda and how that is such a great wine to have with the new dolcetto, the dolcetto still drawn directly from the vat. What would you say? One dish for each of these important wines. For Barbera, what would you say the best food to enjoy with your Barbera d'Alba?
Barbera d'Alba, I enjoy to drink Barbera d'Alba. For me, the best example, steak of Fassona.
Okay, Fassona being the local breed of beef, a very fine razza breed of beef from Piemonte. So a beef Fassona steak.
Steak alla griglia, grigliata,
Okay, so grilled ideally over wood or charcoal.
but also cheese and pork or salumi. But for me, costata di Fassona alla griglia with the Barbera is something really special.
Okay, great.
I try also Barbera with the crostacei in the Christmas time and in the Liguria.
With seafood, with the shellfish.
Yes, with the crostacei. Yes,
Oh, amazing.
yes, it's interesting because have a good acidity and clean where your mouth. And it's good way if you don't want to drink a white wine and to drink a glass of Barbera.
That's really interesting because there's no tannin in Barbera, but it does have the acidity. So there's no reason why it wouldn't go well with seafood with shellfish.
Yes,
Interesting.
served with little bit low temperature and it's perfect.
Yeah, something different. That's very interesting. I shall try that, Mario. You know, we have very good shellfish here in Devon. So maybe with Devon crab, I'll try a bottle of your Barbera d'Alba. Maybe a little, bring it out at cellar temperature, not keep it a little bit fresh.
Yes, it's better. Honestly, I prefer to drink also red wine a little bit fresh.
Uh-huh, okay. Now, you've mentioned the Langhe Nebbiolo, how versatile that was. I can remember once in Signo, we had a bottle of Langhe Nebbiolo with a pizza, and it was very, very nice to enjoy with pizza. With Barolo, I guess the great dish is Brasato al Barolo.
Sure. The best for Barolo is sure Brasato al Barolo. If you drink more young vintage. With old vintage, for me is better. Chocolate or biscuits, pasta di melica, pasta di mais biscuits.
Okay, corn.
E dunque sì, ma with the young vintage, sure, I love to drink Barolo with Brasato al Barolo.
Okay. Mario, you've made everybody, I'm sure, want to visit Le Langhe, visit the Barolo wine hills, see this nebbia, this fog that you have today for themselves, or indeed to come in other times of year. Can people visit Cascina Fontana?
Sure, is wherever is a pleasure for us to receive people in the cellar. It's possible to book visit by telephone or by email, and we enjoy to show the vineyards and visit the winery and have a glass of, or maybe two glasses of wine together.
Okay, well that's a great invitation to all our listeners, and I think from this podcast people will understand that to you, Cascina Fontana really represents your family history and who you are, and I know that you're very proud that your son Vasco is now working in the cellar with you as well.
Yes,
Mario, I'm looking forward to seeing you in just a few weeks' time when I'm over for Grandi Langhe. So it won't be long before I'll be able to share a glass of wine with you. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank you for being my guest today. And congratulations again from all of us at Italian Wine Podcast on this great award, Winemaker of the Year 2025. Grazie Mario, ci vediamo presto.
grazie Mark, ci vediamo per Grandi Langhe, ti aspetto, troveremo il modo di condividere un bicchiere o anche una bottiglia insieme di vino.
Sì. Ok, thank you,
A
Mario. I'll look
presto,
forward to that.
grazie.
Grazie, a presto. A
Ciao,
presto.
grazie. A presto.
We hope today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast has transported you to somewhere special. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.